Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I spoke too soon. We've got 3 more speakers. Here we go. I'd like to invite Riki Parata, Jana Davis, and Jana's asked his dad to come up as well to hold his hand. Kia ora. Rewi Davis? No. Rātou kōrero, regenerating our whenua. Regenerating our whenua. E kaupapa tino. Big kaupapa for us all, I think. So I'd like to invite you all to come up. I tēnei wā, take your time. Yeah, ka pai. We've got a slide too, I understand, there it is. The mini oil rigs that I think Rewi is. You want a hand? Has work done. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Welcome them to the podium.
Kia ora koutou. Yes, my name's Rewi Davis. I grew up here in Murihiku, and I was a fisherman to the age of 24. My father was a fisherman, also a TT harvester, and still harvest TT today. For the last 40 odd years, this is what I did. I was a driller. I drilled for oil and gas globally. Worked in many countries around the world. Saw a lot of, during that period, saw a lot of devastation of the globe, I suppose. Not in the oil and gas industry, but for instance, flying from Miami to Rio every month for almost 2 decades. All I saw was Amazon, rainforest on fire. Every month when I went, flew over that rainforest, she was on fire. And I think the fires are out today. I hope they are. But 15 years of 15 years of travelling down to Brazil, that's the way it was, and there was no stopping it. I've seen clogged waters in Indonesia, just clogged with plastics, just from pretty much downtown Jakarta. I've seen wars over oil and I've seen wars over oil and diamonds in West Africa. I've seen jungles cut down, but there are positives. In Gabon, they've saved their rainforest, and they've saved their animals. So anyway, 40 odd years of drilling for oil and gas all over the world, and it's come to a halt because of COVID. I can't go and do that anymore. So I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to support the environmental PO and these young men here. So I'd like to introduce you to Riki Parata first to speak, and then my son Jana. Thank you.
Tēnā koe, Rewi, ngā mihi e hoa. It's nearly lunchtime whānau, we'll get there. Ka nui te mihi atu kia koutou. Kua tai mai nei ki te tautoko te Murihiku region anai nei. Nau mai hara mai i ngā mema parimata Mineta Woods, tēnā koe. Tēnā kōrua i ngā upoko me kairangatira o Murihiku, o Naitahu, tā tipini, rāua ko Michael Skera. Tēnā koutou e te whānau o Murihiku, me ngā manuhiri rangatira, ko Waiau, ko Kaitahu Mamo e Waitaha, rāua ko Te Awa ki Whakarongotai, Ngāti Tō Rangatira, ngā iwi, no Mārua wai ahau, or Gore for us Southerners. Kei te kai arihi taio au i te hokonui runanga kaupapa taio, ko Riki Parata toko ingoa. I've been told to write my presentation down today, as apparently I have a tendency to waffle, so I'm under strict instructions from the organisers, but it sounds like I've got a bit of leeway, so who knows what will happen. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the distinguished guests here today, and also the Murihiku region team. for organising this hui, in particular Ivan and Janet Hodgetts, and Terry Nicholas, and all the team. You've done extremely hard mahi to get us to where we are today. I'm extremely looking forward to the afternoon. I'm very excited about the green energy possibilities here in Murihiku, the food fibres and regen agriculture, but most of all hearing the voices of our rangatahi in the afternoon. Kia ora koutou. So I lead up the environmental department at the Hokonui Runanga. It's called the Hokonui Runanga Kaupapa Taio. So throughout my career I've had many jobs, and it's very interesting to hear what Ivan and his boss are talking about. It is a career path that has many pathways. I've focused around two main fields. Both were guided by Te Ao Māori. The first one is for my love of kai. I was a chef in a previous life. And the other is guided by Te Ao Tūroa, or the natural world, where I studied environmental management and environmental science. So now these two career paths have led me to working for my iwi, and now I look after the future sustainability of our kai and the environment that sustains our kai, and also our identity as a culture. So it is our love of kai and the abundance of it down here in Murihiku that not only contributes to our slimming figures, but also makes Murihiku unique, and that we have some of the best natural resources in New Zealand, and I don't think it's a stretch to say the world. Our abundance of fresh water not only means we have the ability to generate huge amounts of electricity and potentially hydrogen, but it also means we have some unique aquatic taonga species which need protection from an uncertain future, and it's all about balance, the balance to sustainability. So Ngāi Tahu and iwi across the motu have always had a deep connection with the whenua, and in more recent times we've also played an active role in governance, including having representation through the beginnings of Te Papa Whai, sitting on conservation boards, conservation authorities, species recovery groups, te mea. The list goes on. And these roles seem normalised now, but they were very well fought by our leaders. And these battles have turned into ongoing relationships that were formed by our rangatira, many of whom sit here today, and those that are not with us here anymore also need to be recognised as laying down the foundations for our environmental kaupapa. And now the rākau has been passed to us, and to get stuck in, pretty much, and do the mahi. Our tūpuna and rangatira have positioned Ngāi Tahu to lead initiatives throughout our takiwā, and for us now to show what it means to be a rangatira and kaitiaki of Te Ao Tūroa. And today, we're seeing that play out before our very eyes. So we're talking landscape scale change here, catchment reforestation, rehabilitation through collaboration with the Crown, territorial authorities, community groups, industry, with iwi not only leading by representing our culture, identity and country, but also representing Te Ao Tūroa and Papatuanuku, who do not have a voice, but yet can be heard through the loss of our taonga species and the silence in our forests and our waterways. Through continuing collaboration, mana to mana, recognising each other's roles, responsibilities and mana, we can create and operationalise existing opportunities, including what will be presented here today. So it's an uncertain time, but it's also an exciting one. We are seeing growth and change on the horizon in the tile space, government reforms, exciting new technologies, climate change strategies, both nationally and internationally, spearheaded by global greenhouse targets and global collaboration at COP26, for example. They've all recognised the importance of Indigenous viewpoints and practices. We are very lucky to live in a country where Indigenous practices and viewpoints are becoming normalised in legislation, policy and procedures. But this alignment of thinking with Indigenous communities also brings great demand and pressures on iwi to deliver expectations and obligations set by the government, but also our own whānau. However, this is nothing new to you all, and as always, Ngāi Tahu are up for picking up the wero. So how do we take on these challenges? It's through initiatives like the training programs Ivan previously mentioned, and providing a system of learning focused on the learner and creating a pathway for the individual. We are creating training pathways in the environmental space, embedded with kaupapa Māori, which has to be incorporated into mainstream education. There are now climate change degrees being offered at universities, along with mātauranga Māori, woven throughout science and policy papers, with some no longer being electives but compulsory papers through tertiary study. It's a win. We want to develop our own planners, our own scientists, governors, managers, rangers, and now it's up to us to create those pathways in education and the workforce for our rangatahi here in Murihiku. So from all our papatipu runanga, we'll get some slides on the go. Our reach is great, and this is just Southland. We also have shared interests that go up into Ōtākau. We're currently working closely with councils, Environment Southland especially, government organisations and industry on ways to work together to enhance this whenua, from integrating tangata whenua freshwater objectives into policies and plans, and incorporating iwi-developed practices into mainstream monitoring and processes, to co-designing biodiversity enhancement projects, looking at the entire catchment within a province and with those provinces within the entire Te Waipounamu. Ki uta, ki tai. So as you can tell, Te Aotearoa continues to be a busy space for us, and has been a busy couple of years for our Taio team. We've been successful for a couple of Jobs for Nature projects, one with Toitū Te Whenua, Land Information New Zealand, and the other one with Te Papa Atawhai. We're especially excited about the Toitū Te Whenua Jobs for Nature project. It has a capacity and capability development program intertwined in it with training initiative as well. So that enables us to look long-term past the funding and creating sustainable business avenues for us to stay active in the Taio space. We also co-lead another Jobs for Nature project, an MPI 1BT project with the other three papatipu runanga, and that's around our nursery venture called Te Tapu o Tāne, which our CEO, Jana Davis, will talk to after me. We're also collaborating with other Jobs for Nature projects around Murihiku and Ōtākau, who have the same long-term sustainability goal as us, and we recognise that collectively we can enhance the landscape over a huge scale and over a long term. And as Terry mentioned, this is 50, 60-year visioning that we're talking about. I'll finish with just a few photos. This is what we're up to down in Murihiku. We've started developing an app with Linz, and this is for our seed collection. We go out, collect our trees, collect our seeds from our trees, GPS point it, take photos of it, record it, weigh the seeds, and then we give it a unique identifying number. So when we give it to Jana and his crew at the nursery, they propagate it and pass it on to projects and to customers, and we know exactly where that seed comes from, and that's us telling that whakapapa of those seeds for eco-sourcing. We also are doing some environmental DNA monitoring. We'll be kicking off again next year just around our waterways through the Mataura catchment and seeing what species we've got and how to protect them. And these are our taonga species. We're doing kana monitoring, piharo for you North Islanders, and we're working with Alliance, Meatworks and NIWA around those monitoring programs. And we've got a couple of coda projects, Waikoda, freshwater crayfish, kicking off next year with MPI and MBIE. We're doing trap and transfers at the Mataura Falls for alva, small tuna, little eels. So we catch them below the falls and take them above and release them. We also, that's in conjunction with NIWA and Alliance as well. And we'll be kind of part of a NIWA project where we're measuring CO2 in the atmosphere from our native forests. And we collaborate with our schools and our rangatahi about telling our pūrākau and their traditional stories. And that's Mārua, the valley of the flood behind them there, and this is up on Hokonui. So we've also, as part of our Jobs for Nature program, we've got our training program for our rangatahi to come in and be environmental stewards. And we're doing recruitment programs and training initiatives with Southern Institute of SIT and Otago Polytechnic and a couple of private tertiary providers as well. So we're really focused on the learner, creating soft skills as well as certificates and NZQA qualifications to give them potential avenues to any which way they want to go. So she's all go. So that's me for now. I'll pass you on to Jana Davis. If there's any pātai, just ask Jana. Or feel free to come up and talk to me during the break. Kia ora koutou. Ngā mihi.
Nearly time for lunch. Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Minister Woods. Tēnā koe, tā tipini, Michael. Tēnā kōrua. Tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou. Ko Waitaha, ko Kati Māmoe, ko Kaitahu Kaiwi. Ko Oraka Aparima, toku runaka, ko toku tai o te titi, toku marae. Ko Jana Davis tōku koa, e kaimahi mātou mai te rōpū, te tapu o tāne. Nau mai haere mai, whakatau mai rā, ki raro te marumaru, o Murihiku Regen. Tēnā koutou, o tira, tēnā tātou katoa. So, as Ra would say, translation, g'day. My name is Jana Davis. I'm the Chief Executive at Te Tapu o Tāne. We're a conservation organisation. We're owned jointly by the four papatipu runanga of Murihiku. So we have Awarua, Hokanui, Waihopai and Oraka Aparima. For those of you that don't know, our takiwā is huge. Kiu te ki tai truly resonates with mana whenua at our runanga, at our papatipu. We stretch all the way from Bluff, up past Tahuna in Queenstown, past Wānanga into Hawea, up into our headwaters where our freshwater starts and begins, and our life force streams down here into Waihopai out to our kaimoana. I was asked to come up here and talk today about how we strengthen our environmental po and what it means to me and my whānau. So I thought I'd tell you about where it all sort of began for me. It was on our Titi Islands in the south, where our whānau have been going for who knows how long, but really long time. My tawa, Jane, she got DOC out there in the early 90s, and we started studying our feeding habits for our TT, migratory patterns. We eventually went predator-free, and to see the difference of those initiatives back then to where we're at today, that's pretty amazing. And I can't wait to see that here on our mainland. To me, I'm in this for our fresh water. I'm in it for pathways for our rakatahi and to help increase capability of our understanding for our environment. There's a whakatauki that we have at Te Tapu o Tāne that I came up with our kaimahi. It's toitu te marae o Tāne, toitu te marae o Tangaroa, toitu te iwi. If we care for the land and the water, the people will be sustained. What's good for the land and the water is good for the people. What does that tell you? It talks about reciprocity, taking, but also giving back. So how are we measuring what we're giving back as a community? Like my father before me, I've spent the last 15 years in oil and gas, and it's been a crazy 18 months. If you told me 18 months ago that I'd be running a conservation organisation, I would have called you crazy. I was halfway to Myanmar. I'd just gotten married, and I got stuck out at sea for 6 months. I came home and I started questioning, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, because my wife was pretty adamant that I wasn't going back overseas. I started questioning my purpose, and I started thinking, well, what's next? I've just spent my entire life on this pathway in oil and gas. What else am I capable of? So I started connecting in with my runanga, with my marae. I started going along to every meeting I could to start understanding, well, what does mana whenua want? What's our path? What's our journey? And as I dived into that rabbit hole, and it is a rabbit hole, I started thinking and understanding that the same questions that I had offshore are the same questions that people have or will have in our community down here in Murihiku. I am another version of the Tiwai employee to a degree, just better at drilling. So when I was asked to come and run TTOT, it's been the best job I could ever hope to fall into. It's a show of force of our Papatapururanga united for the regeneration of our natural assets, but also to provide a pathway for our rangatahi. It's really great to see everybody here today and to help you understand what this network provides. I have a lot of people depending on me for mahi at the moment, and so when we talk about education and training for Tiwai, but also for our youth, to know that that is the network that's behind our mahi should give certainty in what it is that we're setting out to achieve. Because make no mistake, we're at a turning point. I love the idea of looking back at where we've come from, and that we need to keep looking forward but not forgetting where we've come from as mana whenua. So to Tapua Tāne, we're currently, everything is focused around partnership, so co-delivery. We've got our first 5-hectare nursery out on McIver Road, which is just on the way into Invercargill, and we've partnered up with the Invercargill City Council to help deliver everything together to help them reach their carbon zero goals. We're looking to do some big projects down in Bluff with the Bluff Environmental Trust, and all the way up into Queenstown. We've got big aspirations. The nurseries are going to be the home base for catchment rehabilitation services, reforestation, growing, planting in natives, fencing, and linking in with community groups to help them upscale their kaupapa. And the idea is not to duplicate it, it is to collaborate and bring as many people as we can into this new idea for regeneration. So it's been a crazy 18 months, but I can only imagine what the next 18 months will bring, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So kia ora, ka mihi.
Ka pai, tēnā koutou mō koutou whakaaro, mō koutou kōrero, mā tauranga I puta mai. So thank you very much for that. I made a bit of a thing about how Jana invited his father up, but really it's about that intergenerational leadership that we learn from home. So it is through our parents that we learn how to become good leaders within our communities. And Riwi is certainly one of our leaders on our marae. And then, of course, throughout his whānau is the matamua, is the eldest within his whānau, that leads the Davis clan, as we say, but also with the mahi that Jana's doing now within this field, for others that are doing it and coming through. And like we say, for our rangatahi that are leading the way or soon will be. But it's people like you in the room that will help. And I know that Jana's got a mentor, Rob Drury, from Zero, yeah? So it's the mentorship that we can provide. And in this room alone are some very, very influential people, but also leaders who will in turn have the foresight to be able to take a rangatahi or someone of their choosing under their wing to help guide so that our future is bright. Martin Luther King did not say, I have a strategic plan. So the dream is real, whānau. The dream is real. And for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that most important time of the day, lunch.